Hello on the Rockers. We celebrate Pride Month with fashion designer and patron saint of men's underwear, Andrew Christian, is back. And he's got a big announcement. We're going to get deep and get honest and a little tipsy with me, your sassy host with the sassy most. Raise a glass, let the drinks begin. It's On the Rocks.
Thank you for being
Boulevard.
Life is a banquet, and most poor suckers are starving to death.
I'd like to propose a toast.
This is On the Rocks with Alexander, where I drink with your favorite celebrities as we talk about fashion, entertainment, pop culture, reality TV, and, well, that's about it. So pop a cork, lean back, and raise a glass to On the Rocks.
Fasten your seatbelt. It's going to be a bumpy night.
Lord have mercy, buns and bows and pantyhose. On the Rocks podcast, a place where we're too glam to give a damn. Follow us on Instagram and on TikTok at On the Rocks on Air, and on Facebook, On the Rocks Radio Show. Send me an email. Book me for a pride, wedding, funeral, quinceañera, bris. I don't care. I'll show up. Info at ontherocksradioshow.com. Send us your comments, your guest requests, and your guest questions. Oh, we got guest questions today. I'll tell you that much. The show's presented by Straw Hat Media. You can watch and are listened to now our over 402 episodes for free at ontherocksradioshow.com. You can watch us on Apple TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV on the Outlet.tv app, Facebook Watch on GED Magazine and I Love Gay LGBT, streaming with Pride on SVTV and on Channel 31 on the East Coast. We proudly tape at UBN Go Studios, your one-stop place for podcasting. Let's get the show on the road, shall we? When it comes to men's underwear, few brands have left a lasting impression as Andrew Christian. No, it's known for its innovative designs, body positive ethos, and perfect blend of style and comfort. Andrew Christian has earned a reputation as one of the most iconic names in underwear, especially within the gay community. From humble beginnings to create an empire, he's made gay mainstream. Not only at the center of gay media and social media, he's appeared on reality TV shows like RuPaul's Drag Race, Millionaire Matchmaker, the Janice Dickinson Modeling Agency, and more. He kicked off this Pride Month with a startling announcement that he was straight. No, just kidding. That he was retiring and he's closing up shop. What are the gays to do? He is here to spill the tea. Please welcome back to On the Rocks, Mr. Andrew Christian.
Yes. So, this was the first podcast I ever did.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yes. I was petrified the first time I did it because I had no idea what I was getting into.
That is insane.
It was so much fun.
That was years and years ago. I think you...
At the old studio.
Yeah. You and Stan Zimmerman hold the record for the most guest co-host and guest appearances. That's funny. Well, you seem like a natural, and now you've been on like every podcast, every TV show, like everywhere.
Yeah, it's like I've done this how many times?
Yes. Medias have been a little bit different for you this last week. We're going to get into that. But I want to remind our listeners and your fans, I keep forgetting it's been 25 years that you've been in this business. And so the young generation of gays, they're wearing your underwear left and right. They're wearing your underwear as gym clothes. They're wearing your underwear as like outfits out to the grocery store. But people are still shocked to find out about how you got started. In your very emotional post that you made on social media, you talked about growing up in Fresno as a Latino kid in Section 8 housing. And a lot of people are like, what? Because we know Andrew Christian from the Empire owner, and founder. What was childhood like for you?
Childhood was tough, growing up a minority, growing up a gay kid where it wasn't accepted. You were made fun of. I remember being taunted and teased when I was a kid, people calling me a beaner, being called faggot even before I knew I was gay. So it wasn't easy growing up in a small town being that different, being very different than what the perceived norm was.
Well, especially growing up in Section 8 housing. I mean, that has its own stigma to it.
It does, I remember like that government cheese, that big block, and that government butter, that big block,
Isn't that weird to think about where your life is now and looking back at how that was your beginning?
It is. And like the amount of success I've had, while you're going through that journey, you're not even thinking about it because you're so involved in just hustling and making it happen. And,
What did you learn about life early on that you still subscribe to this day?
Well, being Mexican American, my family were farm workers, and I think that instilled within me like a hard work ethic, which I've always carried through with everything. And I remember telling my employees, because when I first started, I had no employees. I always tell them, your job, I've done your job before. I've packed those orders. I've packed those boxes. I've made the invoices. Funny story. When I first started, I would have boutiques call me, wholesale customers, and I'd answer the phone like I was the receptionist and change my voice and be like, okay, let me put you on hold. Let me get Andrew, and then come to the phone like it was a bigger company than it was.
That's hilarious, but that's what we do. I remember in the early days of my podcasting, I would send out from a fake email, like the media center at On the Rocks, but like, and it was just me. But that's how we do, and I think growing up that way, I was raised, I was the only Mexican in my private school growing up. It's not because we had money. My mom worked 3 jobs to put me through school, so I could never afford like the new shoes, the new anything, and I was called Beaner so many times. But it kind of teaches you how to be okay on your own, and it gives you a little courage.
And I think that's where my creativity came from in fashion, because I couldn't afford the name brands that all the other kids were wearing. Yep. All the other kids at my school were much more well-off than we were, so I had to be creative and sort of create my own aesthetic. And, out of adversity comes, creativity.
And you were that kid that was in your sketchbook, and you made your own clothes.
I did. I was, even when I was in high school, I was like making clothes and like selling them in like little boutiques in town.
That's insane. I mean, that's so funny. But what kind of kid were you in high school? Did you have a lot of friends? Were you part of the musical theater group, the emo group? Like, what group were you?
I was a band geek.
What did you play in band?
I played the clarinet.
No, you play the skin flute. Okay.
Right.
Clarinet. Why the clarinet? That's such a random instrument.
I mean, it's very phallic, right?
Really, it's like, the band teacher knew. He's like, we're prepping you.
And I was kind of like friends with all the outsiders, which happened to be gay as well, but we weren't out at the time, which was kind of weird.
You connected without connecting. You knew that there was something.
Yeah.
What kind of underwear did you like wear as a kid? Like, how big of underwear was a part of your life?
Well, I think it's part of any gay man's life growing up to like go to the underwear section and see the boxes of the guys with the
bulges.
Yeah.
I remember that.
I remember my mom would get the Fredericks of Hollywood catalog.
You go, Mom.
And like the back 5 pages were like men and like the underwear with the elephant trunk. And I was like, so I may have stole a few of those, grabbed them out of the trash when she was done with them.
That is really funny because my only access, and it was before I really realized what I was really looking for and at, it was like the JCPenney catalogs, it was the Sears catalog, and it would always be pages 28 to like 32 would be the men's underwear, and I would just stare and turn the page, and it was the guys with the bulges in their tidy whities, and that's pretty much all we had back then. But very much that was my awakening. When did it click for you that you realized that you really were different than the other boys?
When they would call me faggot and I didn't know what that was, that was really hard to go through.
What would you say was your first kind of, not crush, but the first time you realized it's like, oh, I have an attraction to a guy?
In high school, definitely, like, being at 7th period PE and like the football team and the water polo team, and it was very homoerotic. They're all showering together, and yeah.
That's the gayest thing. People don't realize it's like, watching a drag queen's not going to make us gay. Like, what you make us go through. I remember science camp, we had to shower all along one thing, and that was the first time I saw hair on a guy's body because one of the kids had gone through puberty early. That's makes us gay. You want us to wrestle each other? Okay.
Right.
Mm-hmm. When did you come out to your parents?
I came out when I was 20 years old.
Okay.
To my parents when I had my first boyfriend. So I introduced my mom to my first boyfriend.
So you're like, I'm gay, and here's...
You're right.
What was his name?
Oh, God.
You forgot your first boyfriend's name?
His name was Craig.
Craig. Oh, Craig?
I know.
Craig in Fresno?
No, here in L.A.
Oh, okay.
In LA.
Okay. Craig in L.A. has, like, in my mind, like, beach blonde stripped hair, but Craig in Fresno is, like, a whole different kind of vision. What did your parents say? Because you come from a Latino, we know Latino households are conservative.
So my coming out story was a bit anticlimactic because I told my mom and she was like, I know. She's like, I've known since you were 4. And I'm like, well, why didn't you tell me? Like, you would have saved me a whole lot of stress.
So it was just that easy. And then,
Yeah.
How long did your first boyfriend last?
Oh God, like maybe 6 months, 7 months,
That's not bad for a first.
right?
Because usually first is like, ooh, a month, and like, ooh. What do you appreciate most about your Latino culture? You know, right now we're dealing with so much in the U.S., especially here in Los Angeles, as to how much of our culture do we celebrate? How much of our culture do we mesh with our American identity? But what do you love most about your Latino culture?
I think I love how I think I love the closeness, how we are with our family members, and the amount of affection we show to each other. And for me, that's translated over into my chosen family.
Mm-hmm.
I always make sure to tell my friends that I love them, check in on them.
You never told me you loved me. You never checked in on me.
Mm.
And I'm a Rodriguez. So how did you go from, sketching and all that? Then you went to FITM.
I didn't go to FITM. I couldn't afford to go to FITM.
I thought you went to FITM.
No, I went to LA Trade Tech. I moved to LA and went
What's
to
LA Trade Tech?
It's a community college in downtown LA.
Wow.
And they have a fashion center there.
But I would imagine a fashion center in LA is still a fashion center in LA.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't like some janky little
Well, it was a little rough around the edges. It was in a rough neighborhood.
What kind of fashions were you working on? Like, what was your early aspirations? Do you think you were doing women's clothing?
I was doing a little bit of everything. I was doing women's clothing and men's clothing, and I put myself through school working at little boutiques and also making clothes on the side and selling them at different boutiques in LA. And just over time, it sort of like gradually just started drifting more and more into menswear.
What classes were your best and which classes were your worst?
They were all good. I liked all my fashion classes. It was so easy.
Okay. Well,
I mean, I guess it's easy if you love like what you're studying and what you're.
So I went to university to study theater because I was a big musical theater. I was not good at many of the classes, like improv. I was terrible at voice and movement, awful. Shakespeare, awful. Like I was so bad. I was like, maybe I just can't do this. But you didn't have any classes like that you, even though you wanted it, you were just like,
At fashion school, no.
No?
I thought it was so easy, and like people were dropping out. I'm like this is the easiest thing ever.
Now, I remember when Andrew Christian came out, it was male and female clothing. The brand was in the closet a bit, yes?
We were trying to branch out. We started out with men's, and then we added women's. Right about the time that I was on to the Janice Dickinson modeling agency. If you go and look back at that episode, you can see like we did a big photo shoot with men and women.
Yeah, I remember.
But yeah, it just didn't take. So we just went harder and like with the men's stuff, with the gay stuff.
And how did creating your own company go about? Because a lot of fashion people, they'll go work for like a major label and they'll work as a designer for them for years and years and years. At what point in your life you're like, oh no, I'm going to start my own brand, because that's pretty gutsy and maybe not the best choice, but it worked for you.
Well, I worked for a few different fashion companies in LA, and I just thought, I'm like, if these idiots can do it, I can do it. And so I'm like, I never wanted to have any regrets in life. So I'm like, let me put like 100% into this. And I remember being like young, and my friends were like going out, to the bars and clubs. And I was staying at home on like Friday night, Saturday night. They're like sewing samples, to take to the trade shows to show the store buyers. I was actually sewing them myself.
Did you ever have to take any type of side job, not fashion related, like retail or something that was just awful?
Thankfully not. Every job I've had has been in the fashion industry, like behind the scenes and design and production.
Now, you have a pretty good handle on the business side of stuff too, which a lot of people, especially, and I hate to stereotype, but in gay commerce and gay business owning, business is just not something. It's like spend, party. Where did you kind of learn the business side of things from the fashion industry?
I started out small and just like, I made a little bit of money, and all that money just went back into the company, just, growing it bigger and bigger and bigger. So, there were some really, really lean years. I didn't get success. I wasn't successful until like 10 years after I started my company. So
people don't realize that.
So people think it's like this overnight success.
Yeah.
It was not. It was like 10 years of barely making it, and I had no backup plan. It was this or nothing.
Well, and like you said, you were doing everything from cutting the samples to designing to putting them together to answering the phones to packaging off the
Making the invoices.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Was there any point in the early years that you were just like, you know what, this is too much?
There were a few points where I did want to give up.
What kept you going?
That I didn't have a backup plan.
So the brand came out and you focused on gay men, which at that time was a big risk because we didn't have anything. And I think soon after there was Ginch Gonch, Aussie Bum. That's all I can kind of remember from that era.
And at that time, most designers were shying away from being openly gay.
Yeah.
And I lean into it. And my marketing was for gay people. And I think that's what resonated with people was we're a gay company for gay people.
And you have totally changed the way people wear underwear, look at underwear. It's not just a functional garment anymore. I mean, you go to your website, there's an underwear for every type of person, for every type of occasion, from porn to harness to sexy to, gym wear to 2XL. You've really evolved to kind of change even patterns and colors. That was never really seen in men's underwear. And now it seems that so many brands are trying to emulate that. Is it a little bittersweet that you've trailblazed and created this atmosphere for other underwear companies to come out with sexy, playful underwear? Because, I mean, you're responsible for that, but they've also taken it on their own.
Right. I mean, I was like the first out here, so I kind of opened the door for a lot of them. So, what do they say?
Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about the Janice Dickinson modeling agency.
Mm-hmm.
I remember like it was yesterday because reality TV really wasn't what it was now. The whole concept of the show, seeing guys half naked, seeing Janice the way that she was, and then seeing you there, it was so different for TV, and it was different for gay culture to see such an overtly celebration of the male form and all the drama that went with it. But it was so fun. And it was intoxicating to watch. People don't realize this about you, is that you are actually very shy. We've seen you on Pride floats. We've seen you on TV. We've seen you We've seen you on stage for every kind of show, just command an audience. But people don't realize that you're kind of quiet and shy.
Well, when I'm on stage, I definitely have like my persona and my personality. And I don't know, it's like a switch. You turn it on and
yeah,
there I am.
So what was it like doing that reality show? Because you were pretty much there in the focus.
One thing I think people don't understand, that reality back then in, the 2000s and 2010s was very different. Like, everybody watched these shows. Like, you were out there and, like, it wasn't so, like, entertainment wasn't so diffused as it is now, like, into so many, like, small little segments. Like, so, like, Janice Dickinson Modeling Agency was a huge show.
It was. I remember everybody was watching it, gay, straight, old, young. Everybody was entranced with it. But that's a lot for you because we know Janice had a big personality. You also had TV people telling you, like, this is what's happening, and then all the drama.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe she just likes me or something. I don't know. But yeah, knowing what I know now, I would have been a lot more nervous, like, going into that show.
So maybe
I was just excited to do it. I was like, oh, wow, this is a great opportunity. Like, let's do this.
At what point in the business did things start to shift and you're like, okay, this is taking traction. I can breathe a little bit. Let's go to the next step.
Well, one of the big shifts was when we released our car wash video, which went viral.
Yes.
Which, nobody had ever seen anything like that. Like these hot guys in underwear.
Getting all wet. Not
and
apologizing for it.
And it just went viral, It was crazy. Like every time I looked at the views, it was like 100,000 more, 100,000 more. 100,000
Still to this day.
Yeah.
And then you did like the laundromat scene, which was so hot.
Yeah.
Looking back at those videos, they were so well done that they stand the test of time today. You could release them today and people would be like, oh, that's a new video.
Here's the thing, though. Like, it was a point in time. I don't think you can go viral like that anymore. Because, I don't know, I have a feeling that, like, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, if there's any gay content, I believe that they don't push it
100%.
out at all.
100%.
And I don't know if it has to do, I think part of it might have to do with the political climate we're in, but I even saw the shift before that. And I've seen it with other gay entertainers and artists that, you know, even like I'm good friends with Sherry Vine. Her videos don't go viral like they used to.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we've had Sherry on a number of times. It was also at a time that we weren't seeing that kind of, like, we weren't seeing gay guys be so overtly sexual in a mainstream way. But everybody was watching these videos. Did you ever have any trepidation, or did anybody ever say, hey, you know what, you're going to be limiting yourself in terms of the fashion industry. You're going to be just that gay brand. You're not going to be taken seriously. Did anybody ever say that to you?
Yeah, I had people within the industry tell me that. And I was like, no, you're wrong.
And you
This is
proved
our
them
strong
wrong.
point. Like, this is, like, I wouldn't be who I am if I wasn't gay.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be successful if I wasn't gay.
Right, but you're not walking around with, like, you know, your balls hanging out. You know, I've never seen you in a Speedo out and about, just like at the clubs. Yeah, but you're kind of conservative.
Sometimes.
Oh, I guess I just haven't been to the right parties.
Let's hit the pool, girl.
So let's talk about your marketing. You've done every type of marketing, music videos, like we said, with your models, Pride appearances, viral TikTok videos, product incorporations in porn, mainstream TV. Looking back, what really worked for the company and what was a bit of a misstep?
I think what really worked was, you know, like, you know, doing these videos that were gay themed, gay content. I would say probably one of my missteps, like you mentioned before, was, you know, doing the women's clothing, which I love doing women's clothing, but it just didn't take. Like, I'm really good at men's clothing. I'm really good at accentuating the male body, and, you know.
Very good for all shapes and sizes of the male
Right.
body. There's undies with extra material. There's undies with a little push-up bra for your junk.
There's some with hardly any material, no material
Yes.
at all.
Yes. What are the biggest assumptions people have made about you? You know, the man behind the designs.
I think the biggest assumption is that I sleep with all the models.
Yeah,
'cause I'm
that is a
surrounded
big
by these
assumption.
hot models
Yeah.
all the time. But for me, I kind of feel like a drag mother, you know? Like, they're my children, and I'm like watching over them, and I try to, you know, teach them right and steer them in the right direction. And you know this as well as I do. They don't always take my advice, and
Yes.
some of them kind of go off the deep end. And
Okay, but let's be honest. We are gay men. The models that you are surrounded by are gorgeous. They're like the perfect specimen of that. You have to react or look sometimes. I mean, you're just a gay human.
I mean, initially, like, when I first meet them, I think they're hot, or like otherwise I wouldn't have casted them. But then after you start working with them, it becomes more like a family. And I was also a little bit different because all the models that I used in Andrew Christian were not professional models. They were like, you know, regular guys off the street, and they knew how to have fun and not be so serious with it. And I think that resonated on video and
100%.
in the campaigns.
Yeah, it was a playful brand,
Right.
and it was full of fun and joy.
Yeah, it was authentic.
Yeah, yeah. Was it hard for you, looking back at, you know, building your empire, in making friends, even meeting business people? You know, when I hang out with you out and about, it's like, oh, that's Andrew Christian, that's Andrew Christian. You know, people know what your brand is immediately. But was it hard for you to kind of separate who wanted to be your friend, who wanted to be close to you, not just for what you could provide them in terms of the people you hung out with, not just for free product or put me in your campaign? Was that always in the back of your mind?
Oh, definitely, especially in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
You know, you have to think about that. Like, people, you know, are always trying to climb up the ladder.
Yeah. Has it been a little isolating over these last 25 years?
It has been a little isolating, to be honest, you know? Like, as you become more successful, your group of friends becomes smaller and smaller.
Isn't that funnier because you're in more and more cities and everybody knows you more and more? Isn't that weird how that's the opposite of what happens in your personal life?
Right. But over the past few years, I have been spending more time in Palm Springs, and I've made like a good core group of friends there that like I trust and I know just like me for Andrew, not Andrew Christian.
Yeah. And let's put an end to the rumor. Your name is actually Andrew Christian. It's not like a brand name. It's not like a drag name that you made up. That is actually your name.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Looking back, how have you changed the most personally since starting this company?
How have I changed most personally? I don't know. I have a lot more underwear now.
No, I mean like who you are. When you look back at that kid that was eating government cheese and having to sketch and make your own clothes, to building this and knowing that you did this on your own. You know, you had your support with your team, and you know a partner, but it's you. It was you answering the phone. It was you doing that.
I think the biggest thing is like having a positive change and influence on people. I hear so many stories of, you know, these kids growing up in these small towns, you know, in the Midwest or in Texas. And Andrew Christian was their only link to LGBTQ culture. And it kind of saved them. Like they felt like they were a part of something, and it helped them to come out of the closet. And I hear this story over and over. And, you know, I didn't start my company with that, you know, in mind. But, you know, I think that's what I'm most proud of, is that I had that kind of a positive effect on people feeling connected with the community.
And even the website's not just about selling your product. You know, there's fun videos, there's sex tips, there's dating advice, there's interviews with drag queens and porn stars. Like it really is like a lifestyle window into the gay world.
I mean, yeah, it has to be like reflective of our culture.
And what I really like is you have like photo contests. Like you'll have a pride photo contest, you'll have a bubble butt contest, you'll have like muscle man contest, and you share all the submissions that come from around the world. And it's interesting to see the different body types and what people are confident about and what's considered sexy from person to person. The idea of what a sexy guy looks like is totally changed.
And I think it's good to like let people compete, whether they live in LA or they live, you know, in some small little town. And people like that, and we just let the fans decide and, you know, vote on it, and people love it. Yeah, it's a lot of fun, actually. It's fun going through the submissions, too.
There was a time that everybody's like, oh, you have to have a size 28 waist to wear Andrew Christian. You expanded. You had a thick brand for guys that are thick everywhere. You went up to 2XL. What was that kind of transition? And I have to say, gay bodies have changed ever since COVID. You know, I think... Some of us, right, Tony? Some of us didn't recover from those COVID days of Uber Eats 3 times a day, you know? And we kind of went out the other side of it like, you know what? It's okay.
I think gay bodies have definitely changed. We actually used to make size extra small. And we stopped.
For who? Preemies?
It would sell. And, like, we stopped, like a year and a half ago, we stopped making extra smalls.
Extra small? I mean, that's small.
Yeah, it's pretty tiny.
Mm-hmm.
But probably about 12 years ago, we tried doing 2XL, and it didn't fly. The inventory just sat there. We're like, okay, this doesn't work. But then right after COVID, we did a little test, and it was like, oh, okay, there's something with this. It's like moving.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I decided to do my thick collection for bigger guys, and we did a whole campaign, and which was actually like a lot of fun shooting.
Such a fun photo shoot. And even today, Cake Moss, who's a drag queen in West Hollywood, she posted her part of the photo campaign and how much it made her feel good about herself.
And I feel like that campaign looks like a movie poster or something.
It does.
or some reality show.
It really, really does. Or like some Spanish like soap opera, you know, with all the thick guys.
Some telenovela.
Yeah. Do you have any regrets in looking back? Something you wish you would have done or you wouldn't have done with the company?
No.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's huge to say. I don't know how many people can look back at the last 25 years of their life and be like, you know, I should have done this, or that was not right.
I mean, I always gave it 110% because I never wanted to have any regrets in life. That's one of the reasons why I started the company. I'm like, okay, this is a big long shot, but let me try it because I don't want to be somebody who's like, oh, I could have done this, but I didn't. Like, let me try it. And if it doesn't work, then it doesn't work.
Yeah. We talk about getting older in the gay community. It's like the dreaded disease. You obviously are by no means old, but we've seen you grow up before our eyes. When we look at some of these early pictures, you haven't aged much at all, you know? But there's something in your eyes that has changed. We have seen you mature in a few different ways. What's it like kind of maturing in front of gay culture in the spotlight?
It's not easy.
Mhm.
I mean, as you know, gay culture is very youth-oriented,
Yeah.
especially in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
It's very, very youth-oriented.
Do you think that that's changing a bit?
I think it is changing a lot,
Yeah.
you know, because with the whole like rise of like the daddy, you know, all these boys are looking for a daddy.
Just to pay their bills and buy them eggs. fill their tank with gas. But there must have been a lot of pressure on you body-wise, you skin-wise, like you having a bad day even where you just want to be grumpy.
You know, I think I just try to be the best version of myself that I can be. I'm never going to be perfect.
Mhm.
I'm never going to have the perfect body. And that's all you can do, you know? I work out regularly. I moisturize religiously.
We've seen your gym pics. Mhm. So let's talk about Mean Girls. Part of having a gay business is dealing with mean girls. Some of us gays just cannot seem to support other gays. You know you've been the victim of mean girls on social media and in business and even chitter chatter here by slighted models or whatnot. How have you dealt with that? And what is your message now to all those mean girls out there?
You know what? If at least they're talking about me.
Yes.
So
Okay.
there must be something that they're jealous of or that, you know, if they weren't talking about me, then I should be worried.
It is weird, though, these keyboard warriors that have to say something about everything. So, like, you came out with 2XL, and people had something to say about that. It's like,
Right.
what are you taking issue with? You know, I don't understand. But that still has to play on your mind. You know, we as human psyche, it's just scientific fact, we pay more attention to negative comments than we do to positive comments.
Because you'll have like, you know, 90 comments that are positive and
Yeah.
then one or two that are bad, and then you focus on those two. So I think like mentally it's good to just, you know, take an ease off of the social media sometimes and not be so focused on it, which is hard.
Yeah.
I have to keep reminding myself.
Of course it is. A big part of your company is not just you. It's not just the sexy outfits and looks, but the models. The models have been part of the brand. It's funny when we look back at some of the early campaigns. Some models have come and gone. Some models have stayed around. Some models have gone on to become their own major influencers. But it is funny when we see it's like, God, that person used to be so popular and in everybody's mind and in everybody's fantasy. It's like, I haven't heard from or seen them in years. What do you think about when you remember all of these models that have come and gone?
I mean, I've gone through like, it feels like so many different generations of models. Like there was my first like core like trophy boys.
I remember.
Before we even coined that term.
Yeah.
Andrew Christian started that term, which I'm still in contact with one of them, Daniel Miagani, which is a great person. Yeah, like super great guy. He was like in one of my first like campaigns. Yeah, and then like I've had so many models.
A lot. And like I said, a lot of them have kind of taken the brand, or used the brand to launch their own stuff. Do you ever feel slighted by any models that are just like, okay, thanks, and now I'm doing my own thing?
No.
Hmm.
I mean, I know they're not going to be with me forever, so
Okay.
you know, if I could inspire them to do something, then why not?
All right, now that you're closing shop, who have been some of your favorite models to work with? You're just like, ugh, love.
Jeez, there's been so many. Corey Z.
Yeah. We love Corey Z.
because he's just like he's funny.
And so sassy and such a troublemaker.
Yeah, and he
but
doesn't
at the same time,
he doesn't seem like he would be.
Yeah, yeah.
He doesn't seem like he would be. So he's kind of like my ride or die.
Okay. All right. You've traveled around the world with these models. Do you have any horror funny stories that you're just like, oh my God, I can't believe that happened, but I did? You don't have to use names.
Well, you know what they say, what happens behind stage stays behind stage.
Girl, you're closing shop. Now's the time to spill the tea. There has to be some funny story.
So once we were sponsoring White Party.
Okay.
When White Party was huge.
Mm-hmm.
This is probably, I think 2012.
Wow.
Like way back then.
Yeah.
13 years ago. And part of the show was the guys, we did an underwear fashion show. This was during the pool party in the daytime. And part of the show was, okay, guys, put a towel around yourself, take off your underwear, and throw the underwear out in the crowd. One of the models took the towel off and threw it into the crowd.
Just naked?
Yeah.
Okay, that's White Party.
That was not part of the show. And so the organizer was like freaking out because, you know, the hotel where they were hosting it, but then afterwards it's like, oh no, it was great. Everybody's talking
everybody
about
loved it.
Yeah.
We better do it again next year. But it must have been a nightmare dealing with models' flights, people missing their flights, people getting too drunk, people disappearing.
Models, you know, walking on a runway and just kept walking and fell off. Yes, that has happened.
Oh, Lord. And again, we did talk about, we assume that Andrew Christian is having sex all the time. He's partying all the time. How much sex have you had over these last 25 years? How much has sex been a part of your life?
Oh, geez, I'm a gay man. Are you asking for numbers? Are you asking like?
No, was it a lot? Was it?
I wouldn't say a lot, but I would say like a normal amount for a gay man.
Like average
in LA.
My God, so six times a week. Okay, I'll mark that box. 6 times a week. All right, let's get to the nitty gritty. After 25 years, why close up shop? Why now? What was that defining moment for you to make that decision?
So the whole fashion landscape has just changed, and buying habits, especially among younger LGBTQ youth, you know, they're buying $3 underwear of Temu and Shein, which is, you know, being subsidized by the Chinese government.
Yeah.
So they're selling these things at a loss. I can't compete with that, you know, in that format. You know, it's the same thing that's happening with gay bars. You know, gays aren't supporting their own gay businesses, so it's hard to stay in business. So, you know, I see the trend and where it's going. So I decided to, you know, step out with some grace now and on my own terms while we're still happening and hot. And yeah, I'm gonna release my final collection in October.
So I remember when you made the announcement, which is just this last week, because
were you shocked?
I wasn't shocked per se, because you hadn't really said like that was what you were going to do, but I could kind of feel that there was an energy shift for you.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm on social media in the mornings just to see what's happening, news-wise, influencer-wise, just, you know, to see. And I think you had posted it, and I think like literally it was like posted 2 minutes ago, and then I texted you like immediately.
You were the first person to text me.
Yeah, because I was like, "Arr!" It was a very emotional post, and people that meet you know that you're a great person, you're a loving person, but you keep people at a certain distance in terms of how much you share about your personal life. This post was very intimate. It was very definite. After you pressed post and the comments started to come in, was there any part of you that was like, oh God, I should have waited, or do I really want to be doing this?
No, I mean, it wasn't a decision I took lightly. You know, it took me a while to come to this decision.
But it's one thing to make that decision to yourself, and it's another one to press post,
right,
and then it's out there.
Yeah, once I did, I'm like, okay, it's out there. And then the text started coming in. I'm like, okay, there's no going back now.
Yeah.
Like, I can't take it down. Yeah.
And the company will close. There's no way that it's going to continue on. It's just
Yeah, unless I get an offer to purchase the company, which I actually did, last year reach out to some big fashion brands out there, and nobody wanted to make an offer. And I also think that's part of like the political climate where
Yeah, people are afraid to be so gay.
where brands don't want to spend money on a gay brand. They don't want to purchase a gay brand.
And your brand has become so much. If it was just an underwear line, I could see somebody like, okay, it's underwear. But it's become so much, from outfits to eco-friendly to like fetish wear to everything to gym clothes. It's a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
Um.
So my final collection is called Bespoke.
Yeah. And that.
So
Yeah.
it's a small capsule collection. It's based off of things that I would actually wear myself. So they're timeless pieces that will be with you for a while. And it's kind of like my love letter to everybody who's ever supported me over the years.
How long will this be available for? Has it already all been designed?
Everything's designed.
How weird was it working on your final collection, knowing like this is it?
It was a little bittersweet. It
Yeah.
was a little emotional,
Yeah.
because I've been doing this for, over 25 years, and there's definitely a comfort in doing the same routine over and over. And I love designing. So yeah, it was definitely a very emotional time designing my final collection.
Is it going to be at a fashion show as like a grand finale party? What's it going to be like?
I don't know. This happened I just made the announcement less than a week ago, and everything's happening so fast. And a lot of people have been asking me, is there going to be a final fashion show? And I haven't even thought about it, but
They're better.
maybe I should.
New York, Miami, Los
Right.
Angeles. Yeah. I'm just
I
saying.
mean, we'd have to go out with a real big bang. though.
Yeah, 100%. All celebrity, rock band, the whole bit. And then how soon is the site going to stay up? How soon or how quickly do people need to get as much stuff as they can?
Well, every month we have a different collection. So if you see something in that collection, you need to get it. Otherwise, it's going to be gone. But I'm projecting through the end of the year. we'll
So
be in business.
December 31st is the last day to buy anything?
Yeah.
That's so crazy to think
Right?
about. So I do not leave the house, even if I'm going to the grocery store, even if I'm going to rehab, whatever I'm doing. I do not leave without the Bro Glow, and then the top of is the instant finisher.
Right.
And everybody
Instant
always
airbrush.
asks me. Everybody always asks oh. And so I was traveling to Sacramento last weekend, and I ran out. I was like, oh my god, what am I going to do? And then I see this announcement. What am I going to do? So I better buy 20 cases
Yeah,
now.
I'll stock you up.
Yeah. When I start looking like Frosty the Snowman, you're going to know that I'm
But the instant airbrush is good.
Oh,
I
it's
would,
so
I would say it's
good.
better than Mac, to be honest.
It's really, really good. And if you have a hangover and just feel boo-boo, it's good. What do you think the biggest challenges are today for a business owner?
I think the biggest challenge is just marketing, like I was saying about YouTube before,
Yeah.
Instagram, we used to market on Instagram and Facebook. And I believe that these companies are discriminating against gays.
100%. Algorithms we know are not working towards
And
anything that's queer.
And I'm surprised there
coded.
hasn't been anybody coming out. There hasn't been a scandal like somebody inside one of these companies saying, yes, they're discriminating against gay people.
I'm sure that's a whole story there. I think the powers that be control so much of that in terms of NDAs and
Right.
I mean, I think after the dust settles, after we get America back to normal again, whatever that looks like, I think a lot of the facts will come to light, and we're going to be like, holy crap, I can't believe all of this was what's going on. All the questions that I got when we announced that you were coming on the show, and I'm sure that you got text after text after text, is what's next? Because you said in your post, this is a period of transformation, which
Right.
means you transform into something else.
Right. I mean, creativity doesn't retire, right?
100%. And somebody with your energy that has worked 24/7 for all of your life, I can't imagine you're going to wake up and watch Judge Judy all day.
I'm not sure yet. Maybe, it might be something with mentoring LGBTQ youth. Maybe it might be something, this political climate that we're in. Our community hasn't been attacked like this in decades. So maybe it goes more into like political activism. Maybe I get a podcast.
Yeah,
Maybe
100%.
I start a podcast.
100%. But there's nothing that's on your mind that you're like, oh, I know that this is where I'm going to go into.
No,
No.
not at the moment.
What if you opened up a school for queer artists?
That would be interesting.
Yeah, like your own FITM. You're like, F you, FITM. I got my own FITM.
Right.
Fabulous.
In any kind of artistry, not just fashion. Like,
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Okay. We'll talk. How have we know that gay culture has definitely changed over the years. How have your consumers changed? And how do you even gauge that? Because you've kept your finger on the pulse a little bit ahead of what people want. For instance, having gender neutral clothing, like your plaid skirts that would go out of stock every single time you posted them. And who would have thought that would have been popular?
Oh, those skirts were crazy. Like I couldn't keep them in.
Yeah, my friends kept saying, "Can you, get some for me?" I'm like, "No, there's no more."
Even I have a very good friend who will remain nameless because he'll get mad if I mention his name. He brought me like the zipper was ripped out of the skirt, and I'm like, he got a little aggressive with his boy.
Yeah.
And wanted me to fix the zipper, which I did.
Yeah, because you're a giver. But how have your consumers changed?
I think they've become more of a cross of the LGBTQ community. You know, we're not just like pigeonholed into this one category. You know, we have stuff for bigger guys.
Yeah.
We have stuff for more conservative guys, which, you know,
Yeah.
are kind of boring. We have, you know, the lingerie underwear, which are more like sexy, and, you know, we have the fetish wear. So it's become more of a cross section of the LGBTQ plus community.
I think you've helped a lot of people explore their fantasies. So I totally know of people that will go to their banking investment job in their suit, and underneath they're wearing some of your lingerie wear, which I think is such an exciting exploration.
Yeah, I met this guy who's a lawyer, and he wears my jock straps when he's like at work, and that's kind of hot, right?
Yeah, 100%.
And then also, like, you know, like I sell sex toys on my website, and it kind of makes it easier for people to like explore that part of themselves.
Yeah,
because they can, you know, order their
discreetly
clothes,
order,
and then, you know, just toss in, you know, little dildo or cock ring here and there.
Your life has been part of a drastically changing cycle over the last couple of years. Who would have thought that you and I would be in the motherless club? You know, such a shock to people like you and me. You know, every gay person says, "Oh, I'm close to my mom," but from what I know, and from you meeting my mom a million times, she was one of your biggest fans.
She was lovely.
It is so hard to think that in the course of a couple of years, all of that from one day to the next was gone.
Yeah.
Again, you were extremely close to your mom, sadly passed away unexpectedly. How have you coped working through that, and now kind of closing this chapter of your life? You're kind of saying goodbye to a lot.
Yeah, and she was, you know, she was my biggest champion, you know. You know, it was just really difficult because I never got to say goodbye. She wasn't sick, and it was hard on me. You know, like I had taken her down to Puerto Vallarta. We were on vacation. We had this amazing week down there, and then, you know, a week after being back, she just passed away. But I can take solace in the fact that she was happy. All her friends, you know, told her like, "Oh my God, Andrew treated me like a queen, and he took me here, and I went here," and she met Sherry Vine down there, and they hit it off, and but it's really like having friends like you and Sherry Vine that have helped, you know, get me through this.
It must be hard to still have to be the face of such a positive brand with like the party life and then having to deal with this grief. And we know in the gay circle, we're so reticent to talk about grief and our emotional feelings, even though grief affects us all.
Yeah.
It puts us in a whole different category. Some of our friends don't know how to deal with that, even, you know, after a couple of years have passed, you know. It is very isolating too. How did you deal with
it? It's very isolating, and when it first happens, people are very, very supportive, but it's when it becomes like a month later.
Yeah.
And nobody's there, and you're still going through
A year later.
A year later, you're still going, your first Christmas without your parent. You're still going through the grief, but everybody's kind of moved all along.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you can't control when it hits you either.
You can't.
It could be something so ridiculous, and then you're just like...
It could be a smell. It could be, you're in the middle of Trader Joe's. Or just small little things remind you of them.
Yeah. All right. What are you going to do on your first day off?
What am I? Absolutely nothing.
I don't believe that, though.
Absolutely nothing.
You're not going to set your alarm.
No.
You're going to wake up in Palm Springs, probably.
Probably.
Is it going to be weird when you close the door to your location in Glendale for the last time?
Yeah. I mean, it's been a part of my life. I've actually been doing this 28 years.
Wow.
I started Andrew Christian in
That's
1997.
Most of your consumers are not even...
They weren't even born.
I know.
Jesus, I feel old. It's gonna be weird because it's been like a habit for so long and something that I've loved doing. I mean, how many people can say that they've worked at a job that they've loved doing?
And gotten to see the world.
And meet so many great people, too. So many great people from everywhere around the world, from, Oklahoma, from just, it's been amazing.
All right. In closing, what's your message to your models and your employees?
My message is, you got this. You can do it. I did it, and you can do it.
Any advice for some young gay Latino kid thinking of starting his own business?
It's going to be hard. It's not going to be easy. Nothing's going to be handed to you, but you know that the truth is inside you, and you can do it.
All right. And what's your message to your fans?
This is a goodbye for this chapter, but I'm not going away. I'll still be here. So until the next chapter.
Whew. Girl, we talked about it all.
We did.
Where do you want fans to continue to find and follow you?
On Instagram, Andrew Christian INTL. TikTok, The Andrew Christian. What else do we have?
Everything. And go to the site and buy what you need now.
Yeah, get what you need now.
Yeah.
Before it's gone.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to see you back next week because we are going to continue Pride season with our Go-Go episode.
Yes.
So, but this was all about you. Thank you so much for your years of coming on the show and your support.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for your friendship, Alexander.
Well, and the events that we've done caused some mischief here and there.
Silver Fox in Long Beach.
Oh, God, girl. Palm Springs, San Diego. Yeah. All right. Well, you're not gone yet, so there's still some time, and we're gonna have to go out with a bang with a big fashion show. So go buy your Andrew Christian underwear. Enter his contest. You have a contest that's still going on, right?
Yeah, we still have the Pride contest going on right now.
Yeah. So people just take a picture of themselves and send it in.
A Pride outfit.
And you can win what?
A lot of money.
Yeah, it's like $3,000.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah, so do that. Well, that's all, folks. It's been our chat with Andrew Christian. It's always a grab bag of fun here every weekend on The Rocks. Big thank you to our engineer and station owner, Tony Sweet. Please like, share, subscribe so we can continue bringing the show to you for free. Until next time, stay happy, stay healthy, stay sexy, and if you drink, stay tipsy. We'll see you next Tuesday. This has been another episode of On The Rocks. Tweet me and slide into my DMs on Twitter and Instagram at On The Rocks On Air. Find everything On The Rocks for free at OnTheRocksRadioshow.com. Subscribe, like, review, and share. Until next week, stay fabulous.